this point in the case construction, the legs have been attached to the front, back, and side aprons. The next step is to add some front rails. The original plan called for attaching the front rails with regular wood screws, but this didn't leave very much area for attachment, and I was afraid that the wood would split, so I used pocket screws. With the front rails cut to their final length, I used this setup with a dado stack on my table saw to cut out the notches. The notch has already been cut on this rail. This is the setup I used. After the top and middle rails were notched, I drilled pocket hole screws in each end. The top front rail was installed first, with glue clamped into place, and then pocket screws were installed. After the top front rail was installed, the bottom front rail was installed so that it was flush with the front apron. After that was in place, the middle front rail was installed, and I used 4 spacers cut to the width of the door opening to do that. Here the spacers are shown, but all of the front rails have already been installed. Here I'm installing one of the drawer supports. These are just held in by a couple of wood screws, and I'm pre-drilling holes for those. And maybe I'm being a bit of a perfectionist here, but I do like to pull out the sawdust from those screw holes. A little candle wax on the screw threads makes it a lot easier to drive those screws into the hard red oak. With the upper and lower drawer supports in place, the final step in the case construction was to add in side spacers for the drawers. With the case finished, it's time to construct the 2 drawers. The drawers are assembled using lock joints holding the front to the sides. And dados holding the back to the sides. I'm making the drawer pulls from mahogany, actually from some mahogany stop strip that I had on hand. I'm gluing a couple pieces together. They're just 2 inches wide and just under an inch high, and with a slight bevel on the sides for gripping, and they'll be held into the drawer with a wooden dowel. Here are 2 lengths of the mahogany stop strip glued together. The stop strips are only about 1.25 inches wide, so I needed a fixture to hold them for cutting the bevel. Nothing too fancy about this fixture. I'm just attaching the stop strip on each end with a screw. I don't need the full length of it to make the drawer pull, so wasting a little bit of it here. But enough is left over hanging to cut the bevel on the table saw. Here the stop strip material is attached to the fixture, and the table saw blade is angled at 12.5 degrees, so it's all set to safely cut the bevel. And after cutting the bevel on one side, it's reversed in the fixture, and the same bevel is cut on the other side. Here the drawer pull stock has been beveled on both sides. I'm chucking up a 1/4 inch brad point bit to drill holes for the dowels that will attach the pulls to the drawer fronts. This piece of stock is long enough to make about 4 pulls. It's easier to drill the holes for the dowels while it's one piece rather than 4 separate little pieces. I cut the drawer pulls apart with a table saw and a crosscut sled. And now the drawer pulls are ready to glue in 1/4 inch dowels. The mahogany pulls have been sanded smooth on all sides and are ready for finish. I'm using dowels that are about 1 inch long, a little longer than needed. They'll be cut to length after the glue's dried. I use this simple fixture for gluing up the drawers. It's just a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, nice and flat, and a couple of flat 2x4s set at 90-degree angle to each other. So it makes it real easy to make sure that the drawer is assembled square. I put down a piece of freezer paper to keep the glue from sticking that has kind of a waxy surface, so it's a little bigger than waxed paper, so it works good for this application. After applying 2 coats of satin polyurethane inside and out, it's time to slip in the drawer bottom. And that's just made of a piece of 1/4 inch hardboard and held in by one small wood screw. I pre-drilled and countersunk a hole for the wood screw. So the final step is to glue in the drawer pull, and this drawer and the nightstand is finished.